Tone it down. Keep a lid on
Welcome
it.
to the next episode, the 22nd episode of the Corridor Cast. That's right, boys and girls. Well, we're doing this thing, and today's episode sponsor is Castbox. That's right. Castbox is a audio platform for podcasts. It's one of the best. It's one of the fastest, and it's got everything you want on there. So if you guys like podcasts and you like listening to them, consider listening to this one on Castbox.
Nice. I have another sponsor. Actually, we lost the sponsorship.
Did we?
It's the Tea Tree Toothpicks.
Oh, we did lose Tea Tree.
We were sponsored by them last episode, but after all the bad comments about toothpicks, they decided to drop us from their roster.
We're sorry.
So
we had a big conversation about taking responsibility. I think Sam is here to tell you.
So I have to apologize.
For Tea
We made
Tree.
a mistake. We had toothpicks, and they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Now they're gone forever.
Right. Now they're gone forever, and they'll never be back again.
Unless we make another mistake.
Not true either. You'll have to apologize for that when I bring your toothpick back on for the next podcast.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's one of those things we're going to keep apologizing for. We are going to be taking responsibility. We're taking responsibility for that constantly.
We're referencing a conversation we had before this began. So, anyways, all right, here we go.
So we've got Ren with us as well today. Hello, Ren.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
You might
Thanks
know
for
Ren from
having me.
the Corridor Crew YouTube channel and the Corridor Digital YouTube channel. He makes he's a VFX artist.
Incredible content.
And he's a content creator.
Yeah.
Okay.
I produce
all right,
for the
guys.
internet.
So let's talk about a couple different things today.
Let's do it.
The first thing on the agenda is there's a new Bill and Ted movie happening. Woo!
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
We're starting with the important stuff.
We're starting it with the important stuff. Apparently, Hammerstone Studios announced Wednesday that production on a third installment of the Bill and Ted franchise will begin this summer, with Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter, who are now 54 and 53, respectively, reprising their roles as metalhead slackers. Apparently, in the new movie, a now middle-aged Bill and Ted set off on a new adventure when a visitor from the future warns them. Middle-aged, yeah.
It's kind of like late for
Kind
being
of like
middle-aged.
late middle-aged. in the new movie, a late middle-aged Bill and Ted set off on a new adventure when a visitor from the future warns them that their only song can save life as we know it and bring harmony to the universe.
Wow.
The movie's set to drop August of 2020.
That's just the description of the second film.
Yeah, it kind of is, yeah. So, does the world need this, and will you see it?
I never saw any of the first ones.
Me neither.
Really?
Yeah.
The first one was a little jank, and it was kind of like one of those like indie films that like it was kind of popular. It was like the Terminator of the Terminator franchise, the first one. The second one, Bogus Journey, was great in my opinion.
I feel like I
taped
know
it.
the memes and stuff from it and like references, but I've never actually seen them. So
Because they die and they go to hell, and then they
In the second one.
they manage to escape like Satan, and this is like weird like trippy 80s hell and stuff, not like that, and then they like play the Grim Reaper for their life back and like
That's right.
checkers.
Yep.
Because you can pick 3 games to play against the Grim Reaper, and so they pick like Guess Who checkers and like something else.
One other one that he doesn't know how to play,
Yeah.
and then they fool him.
Yep. And then
Yeah.
they go to heaven anyways. It gets really weird. They meet these weird creatures.
And then they come back to Earth.
And then they have a concert where they're like fighting robot versions of themselves that are like playing guitar, but then they also have time travel, so they keep doing these things where like one guy drops a cage and then they have like, oh, well, we went back in time, we put a key in the cage, and they pull out this key. It's like, well, I went back in time, I put another cage over your cage, and like it gets really trippy.
You remember this movie really well. I haven't seen it in about 10 years, and you're bringing stuff back in my memory now after
This is one of those movies where like it was on TV, like when I came home from like, or it was like Saturday, it was on TV, and I happened to like tape it on VHS.
Right.
And I watched it afterwards, and like it totally caught me by surprise. It's like The Matrix. When I was on an airplane and I watched The Matrix for the first time on an airplane, it was like, whoa,
Jesus Christ.
yeah. This is a little bit like that. It wasn't as good as The Matrix, but
You mean he's the one?
Yeah.
they happen to both star Keanu Reeves. So Keanu Reeves just surprises me with good movies here and there.
He'll do that.
I just hope
His
it's a
whole
little more
career's been like
serious,
that.
right? You know, because the thing with these movies, it's like, are they just going to be man children in this, like they are in the
I hope it's
originals?
not a Dumb and Dumber 2 situation.
Yeah, because like I started watching some of those Will Ferrell movies that I'd missed, like, you know, Step Brothers and stuff, and there's some funny stuff in there, but it's also really weird because they're man children.
Do you think they'll address
his
like
character.
what happens to in the previous one they were like teenage or early 20s metalheads? Do you think they'll address what happens to somebody that's a metalhead in their teens and 20s?
And George Carlin's dead. He was like their like guide, their time guide.
He was
Oh,
their
wow.
guide, yeah.
You're right. Like Well, they're going to show what leading a responsible adult life is like after
it's like
enjoying metal in your 20s.
Bill is an insurance agent, and Ted's
Maybe he's a music teacher.
a music teacher.
Yeah. They own a metal label.
I'm like 60% sure it's based on a comic book, by the way.
Anyway, will you guys see this?
That's pretty high probability.
I
Maybe.
will probably not see it, but
Okay.
I'm not opposed to seeing. I'll probably like pick it up on Redbox or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Watch
Who
on
knows?
DVD.
If it's good reviews.
No, Blu-rays, dude.
Ooh, look out.
Watch an HD DVD.
Snap.
I prefer renting Blu-rays over streaming.
Why don't you just rent something on Amazon?
Because it's streaming.
Right.
It's got all the blocks.
I prefer watching movies that are 50 gigabytes as opposed to 1.
Mm-hmm.
But why?
Because they
Ren.
download
'Cause
the
it's super
blocks
easy.
onto
It's
the
not a big
screen
deal.
and you can't see the image
I
clearly.
don't know. I like having the visual clarity
You're
that
a
a Blu-ray
cinephile.
Mm.
Sounds like.
And it's like it's super cheap. It's cheaper to rent a Blu-ray than it is to rent something off of Amazon. It's
How
like
much is
a
it?
third of the price. It's like $2.
Ren, I think,
Oh.
are you the kind of guy who sets your TV's sharpening to 100%?
No.
Do you have motion interpolation turned on your TV?
Hell no.
No, God.
Well, you don't even have a TV.
that
you
should
have a
be
projector.
auto
Yeah, we have a
turned off
projector.
at all times
I have a
on all
110-inch
settings.
screen.
Except if you're playing video games.
Yeah, but the fact that that's the default setting,
What's worse?
and then old people don't know how to turn it off.
What's worse are the
Yeah.
I
TVs
know.
that keep
Oh, God.
re-enabling that feature, and that's becoming more and more of a thing over the last couple of years. Is that you
Every
turn it
time you
off,
turn it off.
and
Yeah.
sometimes you don't even have to turn the TV off. After like 5 minutes, it automatically turns it back on.
But why?
I don't know why.
I would break my TV if I
Yeah.
did that.
yeah,
Big
I would
TV
straight up
is
return
coming
it if
to
you
get
did
ya.
that
Big
to me.
TV, big chain. Everyone's against us,
Big
man.
TV man trying to make that footage smooth. I don't want it to be smooth.
All right. All right, moving on.
Hey, can we talk about the new VR headset that was announced?
Yeah, let's
Sure.
talk about
Can we
this.
talk about that?
Yeah, you
The
can.
Oculus
We got some heavy
Rift
topics here, but I want to keep it a
There's
little
some
light.
heavy topics that we're going to get into. Nico wants to do a couple more
wanna
warm-up
keep it light.
laps before we get into them. Go
All right.
ahead, Nico.
All right, so the Rift S was announced recently, and if you guys are familiar with the current VR market, you basically have the Vive, you have the Oculus Rift, which are, for all intents and purposes, kind of the same thing. Basically, you set up things that are going to watch your headset, and then your headset is tracked in 3D space. The difference is that the Oculus requires cameras, whereas the Vive just has these like laser emitters, and all the cameras are built on the headset. There's been Windows mixed reality headsets kind of coming out over the past couple months that are basically there's no things you set up for tracking. All the cameras are built into the headset and it's just doing real-time 3D tracking. The same kind of real-time 3D tracking you basically can get with your phone when you do like an augmented reality thing with your phone. So Oculus recently announced the Rift S, which is basically the same thing as the Oculus Rift, except instead of using cameras plugged into your computer, it has the cameras on the headset and is doing inside-out tracking. So it's basically doing the same tracking your phone is doing. There's been a couple other basic changes, like they switched the lens type. The head strap is like the head strap on the PlayStation VR.
Good, I like it.
The screen's no longer OLED; it's LCD. It's slightly higher resolution, but for all intents and purposes, like these things are kind of lateral moves. And of course, when something like this is announced, every single VR enthusiast out there who owns an Oculus is like, "What? This isn't an upgrade." Oh, I was expecting better. Facebook doesn't care about VR. Oculus might as well just throw it in the garbage. I waited 3 years for this. Screw this. It's just a downgrade. And, like, of course, it's just all complaints from
They
enthusiasts.
don't get it.
They don't
just
get it.
Don't get it. They want better content, but they only want it for like their
Lamborghinis.
hardcore. Yeah.
Why aren't there more
machines.
roads built for my Lamborghinis?
That's funny.
I mean, that's more or less an accurate statement.
So Nico, why is that a like a misinterpretation of what's important about this?
Yeah, so what's important about this? Like, first off, there's nothing that's really a downgrade on the headset. Everything's either a slight upgrade or just kind of a lateral move, which is my new favorite thing to say.
A lateral move.
Like, going from an OLED screen that's slightly lower resolution to an LCD screen that's slightly higher resolution is more or less a lateral move. You trade off good black levels for more resolution, etc.
What's the price on the Rift S?
$400.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
So here's the thing. Setting up cameras is the worst. And you guys might think it's fine if you have a Rift, and that's cool. But in reality, it's actually the worst.
Yeah.
First off, if your computer doesn't have good USB ports, 3 of them or 2 of them if you want to do room scale, you got to get an expensive USB card. You got to be troubleshooting it. I've read plenty of threads of people that struggle with this stuff. So setting up cameras is the worst. And not to mention, like, I have my Vive upstairs. I use it once in a while, but honestly, it's incredibly inconvenient to use because every time I want to use it, I gotta go and I gotta put everything out. I gotta set it all up. I gotta do room scale again, and it's annoying as heck. Versus just being able to plug in my headset, put it on, and start. That's wonderful, and I don't care if everything else is the same. Just being able to plug it in and turn it on is great. And for the vast majority of people out there who want to do VR, they can't deal with setting up cameras, and they can't deal with troubleshooting 3 USB 3.0 ports in their computer. You need, like, at this point you can run VR on most machines. It's like if they're coming out with the Quest, which is basically on a mobile phone, VR games are going to work on most machines. But the issue is getting 3 USB 3.0 ports to like power your 3 cameras, and then getting cables long enough to stretch to the other side of the room. That's not going to happen for 99% of the people out there. So what Oculus has done is they've made a headset that's basically the same as the Oculus Rift in terms of your VR experience, but you don't need cameras to track it. You don't need Vive's lighthouses to track it. It's just a self-contained headset. You plug it in and you start playing.
So it's easier to use and it's cheaper, and this means
it's the same price as the Rift right now.
Okay, I mean, sure, but like cheaper than when it first came out. They were like $800, $600. But my point is that it's cheap enough that your average Joe can go out and like kind of buy one now.
Exactly.
It's a big console price, but it's not like, you know, they're buying a $1,000 computer.
My point is that I'm shaking my head because I think it's funny how this is like a topic that people find controversial in any manner.
Well, it's because they wanted to have a better headset. They wanted to have a big upgrade. They wanted to have 8K per eye, yada yada. But
and they want it to be probably cheaper somehow too.
But this is going to bring more people to VR, which is going to encourage more developers to make VR games and just kind of push the entire industry forward. That's why I'm excited.
Yeah, totally.
Same reason why I'm excited about the one wheel pint. It's going to bring more people to riding one wheels.
That's why I don't play VR games in my place, because I don't want to deal with setting up cameras.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest issues with VR right now is not really your headset resolution. I mean, that'd be nice to have more resolution. The biggest issues with VR right now is the tracking and the software.
People want the Nintendo Switch in VR form, but the problem is that the technology's 20 years behind.
Yeah.
And so you need that time.
I mean, honestly, the conversation that you're seeing right now, the Switch is a great analogy, because the conversation you're seeing right now is the exact same thing. Like when the Switch came out, it's like, the Switch, it's so underpowered. Look at it. It's so tiny, and who would take that to a party? I got my PlayStation 4. Why isn't the Switch better than the PlayStation 4? It's like, well, no, they're different goals, different things. Yeah. It's like, this is going to make VR way more accessible for everybody that has a gaming computer.
Well, what do you think about the Oculus Quest then, which is basically the same thing, but it's entirely self-contained and it has positional tracking?
I love the idea of the Oculus Quest from a hardware point of view. Like, that's the end goal. You don't need a computer. You just put your headset on and you go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't love the idea that I can't plug it into my computer to, you know, basically just run it like a regular headset where I can have better graphics. And B, it's Facebook just trying to pull an Apple Store kind of thing, where what they really want with Oculus Quest is their walled garden, where you have to buy every game from their store, which is kind of the same thing going on with the Nintendo Switch or, you know, anything like that. But like what they're doing with that, like there's no more, I can't put mods in Beat Saber to play my own custom songs in the Quest. You know, now it's all DLC that I'll have to play for. I can't, you know, load up little indie itch.io games.
Now, hold on. You're starting to complain about the roads not being good for your Lamborghini.
I mean, but this is a natural concern for the Quest, that you're going to have to buy all your software from the Oculus Store.
Of course, but then
I feel like that's not a problem, though. Like, on my PlayStation, I always just buy all my games through the PlayStation online store.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nintendo has that walled garden. But the thing is, we know that deep down Nintendo has this pure, soft, friendly, innocent heart. And all their games stem from that feeling. And you look at Facebook, it's like, what kind of games are they going to have in their walled garden?
No, I hear you there.
Like, what kind of like shady, like hunchback, like penguin, like villain is like
they're gonna let other people
roster
in there. Yeah, they're gonna let other people in the garden through the back door, and you're not gonna know they're there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing too is like
they're also going to sell your head movements to advertisers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What are you looking at the most?
Once eye tracking becomes a thing, that is going to be something that is sold through.
True.
Guarantee you. It's like,
that's
how many ads did you look at? Where on the ad did you look?
Well, it's all YouTube.
Facebook's going to know all that, and they're going to sell that information.
I think it's fantastic that YouTube finally has that, though, with their like the YouTube Studio. Just how many times has your thumbnail been shown to someone, and how many times have they clicked on it? It's like that's so close to like that eye data.
Yeah.
You know, and it's fascinating.
Oh man, those red arrows! Can't wait to see more of those. But
bum, 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 bum.
I think at the end of the day, though, like with the whole walled garden thing, with VR being as young as it is, there's so many great experiences that aren't polished final games that you can get on the PC. That realistically, I feel like what you're gonna get the most of in the Oculus store is like the wave shooters that are super polished, you know, versus like really cool experimental but unfinished things, which I think is where the most fun in VR lies these days. You're not gonna get that with the Quest.
But those are more in-depth like experiences, right? It's like, isn't the Quest about bringing a VR gaming to a much larger audience? So you don't really need those.
Right,
really,
but the games you're gonna play on the Quest aren't gonna be like.
You don't know that though. You're not. You don't know that the games are. I mean,
I kind of know it.
Perhaps, but that's not necessarily. It's like it doesn't have to be that way.
You're gonna get your Space Pirate Trainer remix. You're gonna get your Beat Saber with the same 10 songs you've been playing, and maybe 5 new ones.
And guess what? Those are actually great games for someone who's never played VR before.
True. But you'll play Space Pirate Trainer for like a day. You'll play Beat Saber for more than a day. Beat Saber is great.
Yeah.
But you'll play Space Pirate Trainer for a day, and you'll be like, okay, that's neat, but it's the equivalent of riding a jet ski.
Yeah.
It's neat. You'll do it once or twice, and then it'll sit in your dock.
Yeah. So it's not, like owning a jet ski. I seek out jet skis.
It's like owning a
frequently.
It's, a pool.
Yeah.
Right. I'm being a little harsh on the Quest, but
a little harsh.
at the end of the day,
It's like the Virtual Boy, but just better graphics.
it's really just it's a wait to see.
What great story-based RPGs are on the Virtual Boy?
It's a wait and see kind of thing with software. Because even on my Switch
Yeah.
right now, there's actually not a lot of games worth buying.
On the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, assuming that you've had it.
Depends on how hardcore of a gamer you are. I
Yeah.
only like 5 or 6.
That's about how much I have. I
Yeah.
have like
Yeah,
that
see,
much.
but that's what I'm saying. A whole console.
It's like
just
looking for
5
the
or
next
6
thing
games.
now since Smash Brothers. Nothing's really catching me, you know. So
It was Dark Souls.
maybe when the new Zelda comes out, the Link to the Past.
But
remake.
here's the thing. That's still enough games. Like I'm still playing that Switch every single day.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I've been playing that as much, if not more, than my PC.
I just picked up Civ 6 for the iPad, and that is a
Uh-oh.
leisurely game if I've ever played one before.
Wow.
Sit on the couch and poke
On
at
your
those
iPad.
hexagons
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
and shoot nukes at Gandhi.
I don't know
all
why
day.
more developers haven't smartened up and ported their stuff to
Yeah.
iPad, because like Command and Conquer
Totally.
or like even these like story-based like adventure games, like even like the old Lucas games or whatever. What are they called?
LucasArts games.
LucasArts, yeah. Like stuff like that. Like gosh.
I mean, Grim Fandango's on there, and Grim Fandango is a great experience on iPad.
Oh, great.
Inside is on iPad, and if you
Yeah.
haven't played Inside and you own an iPad, buy it right now.
Inside.
Inside. It's also
Never
great on
heard of
PC. It'd be great to play on your projector. Trust me, it's so good.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
dude, it's the moodiest, coolest. It's like a storybook, except you're playing.
Stories. I'm already uninterested.
All right. Let's talk about.
It's like a MOBA. Except you're
Not
in it.
like a MOBA.
No.
Let's talk about videos online and whether they're good or bad. Okay. You ready
Videos
for this?
online. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of what we do.
I know. That's why it's relevant to this podcast.
I know.
Yeah. So this is a heavier topic. YouTube and Facebook have defended themselves in response to the Christchurch attack videos. If you all are probably familiar with at this point, last Friday, the Christchurch mosque shootings were live streamed online. And YouTube and Facebook have defended themselves against policymakers who accuse them of failing to act quickly enough, stating that their moderation is as good as possible given the number of videos uploaded. So here's some stats that came out on Tuesday. Facebook stated that while the original stream was viewed live fewer than 200 times and non-live by 4,000 people before it was removed, copies of it spread so rapidly that by Saturday evening, they had removed more than 1.5 million re-uploads. YouTube was forced to remove human review from the takedowns due to the fact that, quote, the volume, this is from somebody at YouTube, the volume of related videos uploaded to YouTube within the first 24 hours after the attack was unprecedented, at times as fast as a new upload every second. So there's a lot of issues we could get into there, but my main one that I want to ask is that the real issue seems to be, why would so many people try to re-upload this? What does that say? And is that possible grounds for more moderation in digital media?
I guess the question is it news or is it people trying to get views?
That's what I'm saying. Like, why would 1.5 million people re-upload this by Saturday evening on Facebook after only 200 people saw it live?
Yeah, I think that's interesting, that thought process. The thought process from you seeing it for the first time, whether you're horrified or you're shocked or you, I mean, who knows?
I mean,
but like,
I'm sure some people are getting a thrill out of it.
Why would you re-upload that video other than for the like immediate goal of alerting authorities? You know what I mean? Like, obviously, okay, yeah, I see a bad video, I need to get it out so people are aware that this happened.
I mean, I see there's two things. One, you just want to horrify and shock other people, aka it's the same reason you send them anything else. It stimulates people's emotions, but this one just being more extreme. Or B, I mean, they talk about glorifying, you know, people and their acts of mass violence. Like, people do acts of mass violence to get attention. And
for what it's
if you're
worth,
re-uploading the video, you're giving them attention.
Yeah.
I have not seen the video pop up at all. I've not seen it. I've not even seen
neither have
thumbnails
I.
for the video.
Me
I
neither.
have no
I
idea
haven't
what the
either.
shooter's face looks like. I have no idea what his name is. And normally that's fairly rare. I've seen none of that. So 1.5 million uploads of this video has never crossed my path at all.
That's what I'm saying. Is like policymakers have looked at them and they've said, I mean, honestly, it's just a situation that allows them to say something they've been wanting to say the whole time, which is digital media needs to be regulated, and this is just a catalyst that allows them to say that. But the fact that these many uploads happened and none of us here saw, I mean, we didn't seek them out
I thought
either.
they did a pretty good job.
That's incredible.
Exactly,
A
right?
new upload every second onto your site, and you have robots that just go in and it's just like turn off, you know? Like, that's amazing, the fact that they can control it to that degree of specificity. Now,
I mean, I think this is a good thing they're doing. I think YouTube doesn't want people, like, YouTube as a company should never want people to be uploading videos like this.
no.
Because really, if it's the day after or a couple weeks, like, up to, hell, even like a year after, that's all glorifying the act. It's not historical at that point. Like, down the line, sure, like, you can let it be a historical thing for reference. But right now, if there's 1.5 million people uploading it, it's a bit of a, like, that's the exact kind of buzz. Like, if you're uploading that video, you are doing exactly what that shooter wanted you to do, and you're kind of a piece of shit. So I'm just going to say that. You're not spreading news around.
Spicy times.
Yeah.
Spicy times. Hey, all right.
You are not thinking beyond. You are not
I
thinking
agree with you,
beyond
Nico, honestly.
your acts there. You need to think deeper than what you're doing.
All right, you guys ready?
You
Do
can
you
be
think
making.
it's-
Hold on, no, I'm going to finish real quick. You can be making the argument that you're trying to preserve it for news. That's fine. Leave it on your hard drive for a month, a year, or whatever, and then if you need to archive it and put it out there for people to reference, sure. But right now, you're just grabbing those views and trying to shock your friends, and that's kind of bullshit.
You're turning around, you're uploading it the next day because you know people are going to be searching for it and you want to get views. That's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, but well, it's probably a certain number of people who are doing that. I don't know if that's, you know what, for some reason, my optimistic side is like, there's no way that could be the majority of why people are doing it.
You don't think
It's
that's
an
the
innate
majority
human
of
nature
why?
thing. It's not.
I'm
always
not saying like
malicious.
everyone's like, oh, I can make money off of this video. I feel like deep down inside, I don't feel like that's the driving goal of the majority of those re-uploads.
So what
I would agree
you
with that.
feel
Yeah, I
would
mean,
it
there's
be?
morbid curiosity for
Morbid
sure.
curiosity, awareness.
But you don't need to satisfy that
cetera,
morbid
et cetera.
curiosity by glorifying a killer the moment it happens.
Okay, yeah. So, well, I guess that's the thing. Does a re-upload glorify just a neutral upload? I drag a file and I hit upload. Did I just glorify something?
I mean, you're being way abstract here. The day after it happens, yes.
Okay. Well,
Yes. You're
okay.
glorifying it the day after. The day after it happens, you're
Yeah.
going out of your way to give power to that person.
Well, this also brings up a thing. Do you think that, for example, the people that did this and committed this, do you think that their names and faces should be even reported?
Okay. Yeah.
It's
No.
like when they
No.
don't show a streaker at a video or at a sports event. Now this is obviously a much more horrific version of that, but
Yeah,
do you think the
don't give them
same
attention.
Okay,
philosophy should
that.
apply here?
I get that. I mean,
Wait, you get that, but answer Jake's question.
can you restate your question?
My
one more
question
time?
is, do you think that the names and faces of the people that commit these sort of acts should be publicly stated?
Well, here's this. I mean, first off, obviously.
Sam, are you answering the
Hold
question?
on.
Yeah, let's let him answer.
This is complex.
It is. It's
because
super complex.
there's a really bad sounding thought experiment that I'm putting myself through recently here after hearing about this story, because the common narrative has in media and with people has been, when something really bad happens, like, clamp down on it, ignore it, pretend it doesn't happen, don't share it, don't give them the attention, etc., because that is supposed to psychologically counteract or discourage other people from doing horrific things. I think that's pretty. Over the last decade or so, it's kind of risen in popularity to where I think it's now that's what everyone says. And once again, it's like I don't like watching violent videos. I don't like seeing this stuff. Like, I don't think people should do it. But at the same time, there's a part of me where it's like, I think particularly here in the United States, you know, everyone jokes about thoughts and prayers. Like, very frequently, like, you'd see people say thoughts and prayers, and that became a meme, okay?
Right.
That became a meme as a response to something horrific and tragic happening.
Right.
And, well, people criticize thoughts and prayers because thoughts and prayers don't do anything. All you're doing is you're basically ignoring it and moving on until the next one happens because you're not contributing anything. And more, as I think about that, this is particularly in the United States, not things in, like, New Zealand, because their response was fast. They're like, boom, things are banned, boom, no guns, boom, action taken, okay? But here in the United States, it's something that happens way more regularly than in New Zealand and Australia. And so, as I was saying, to get back on that thread, thoughts and prayers has been now a meme because of its ineffectivity, effectively.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you have this other response, which is ignore it, hide the names, hide the faces, talk about it, but, like, basically we're cutting off all the edges here of this discussion, just saying something really bad happened. And I think this is the thought experiment. But is the inaction in the United States on these mass tragedies partially due to the fact that people aren't getting the shit scared out of them? You know what I mean? When they, like, because, you know, like, if you see something crazy online, you see a violent video, you walk away with, like, that, like, weird, scared adrenaline rush of, like, oh my God, life is so
made an assertion,
so important, you know, and so, like valuable. And,
hold on, you made an assertion. You said people aren't getting the shit scared out of them. That's a false assertion.
Well, if I feel like,
I mean, the Sandy Hook shooting was awful. Everybody knows it was awful, and you don't need a video to know it was awful.
Well, I know, but then why does this keep happening? You know,
well,
there are a lot of
reasons. There's a lot of reasons. It's not
yeah.
because people aren't seeing the videos.
People,
I mean,
not because people don't feel like it's.
There's a lot of reasons why these things keep happening,
yeah,
but it's
sure.
not like you can boil it down to one particular thing. I mean, it's a host of issues.
Well,
but maybe that's not what you're trying to say.
That's not what I'm not trying to say. This is the only reason, and I agree. It's a big host of issues. It's a lot of things. But is this one of them? You know.
Well, you're also saying that we
just
don't talk about these shootings because of that, but it's like we still the events themselves are still reported on. They're still talked about quite a bit.
Yeah.
But there's it's a bit more of a recent push than I think you're letting on of not showing two things: the face and the name.
Yeah.
I don't think we should ignore them at all. I'm just saying it's like giving credit to the person and putting their name out there, like Timothy McVeigh. Everyone's heard that guy's name because he's the Unabomber.
No, he's the guy that blew up the Oklahoma City. The Unabomber's a different guy.
Yeah, it is? Okay, well, whatever. You get my point.
Ted Kaczynski. I shouldn't be saying these names, but whatever.
I'm sorry. But that's my point, is everyone knows their name.
Infamous.
John Wayne Gacy,
yeah.
you know, like all these horrible people. Now, if you don't give them that satisfaction, which is the satisfaction that they want ultimately, that's all I think I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but well, I guess my point is being derived more from the response to, like, Australia and
I guess
etc.
Here's the other difference. Sorry, but I want to answer your question because you did pose a question here, and I want to throw out my 2 cents on it. It's one thing to show a video that, say, somebody else filmed from outside of, like, the aftermath or something like that. Like in the Paris nightclub shooting, you had video people took to the street of, like, the SWAT teams getting ready to enter the building, for example.
Yeah.
It's another thing to show the killer's own video that he live streamed, where he's making quips and jokes and talking about stuff. Like, don't play his video. Don't play the killer's propaganda.
Okay.
So news is one thing. You can show the news. You know, you can show like the aftermath. You can show footage other people might have gotten of the moment, their experiences, the horror, but don't glorify the killer's own propaganda, his own video, his own attention. You're giving power to him or her when that happens.
I've only
Usually
heard
it's a him.
very lightly that there's like these horrific
there was
comedic
one
elements.
one time.
Well, no, but
in
I think
San Bernardino.
That's the actual response to that thought experiment. That's the actual, like, what you just said is the first answer I think I've heard to that, because, you know, once again, I haven't seen this shit, and I like, so it's a thing where it's like you hear, it's like I can imagine death, I guess, and violence, but I can't imagine like all of these weird, super jacked up things that you're mentioning, like like I did hear that meme thing or like this quip thing. It's like I don't know what is contained within it, but you're right. If it's like from that perspective of if it's part of this killer's propaganda, it kind of belongs in that camp. But versus just the concept of general awareness of what death and tragedy.
There's nothing wrong with
like.
morbid curiosity. Either. Like that's part of being human.
Exactly.
Is confronting death. Like I think Reddit banning the sub "Watch People Die," like they were using this as an excuse to ban that sub. Most people weren't going there to like get off on watching people die. People were going there to understand death. Like it's part of the human experience. You know.
Well, because that's the topic I'm mostly talking to here. It's like, do we see like is that facet of this conversation playing into the United States' ineffectivity with handling the situation properly?
I don't know.
Because I know that's big.
I do think though on that Reddit banning that subreddit, I mean, morbid curiosity, yes, everyone has like, you know, considered, what does a dead person look like, right? But unfettered access to that at a young age, I think could be damaging. I think that like sex ed or other topics, it needs to be done in a sort of constructive environment. Perhaps they should even like have a class on like death in general for kids so that they understand what it is in a constructive manner, rather than just like, here's a bunch of images of people dying on the internet.
Here's a shocking watch it till you're
I mean,
numb.
I remember the first time me and my buddy snuck to the video store and somehow we got a copy of Faces of Death, and I was like 10, and it was way too much for me at the time, and I never wanted to see anything like that ever again.
There's also something about that VHS like filterized like snuff footage that's like so horrifying.
Most of it's fake.
Right, but I didn't know that.
I know, right? It's crazy.
And then the other thing is like that could have had just an opposite effect on me if I would have just had like a couple things in my brain wired slightly differently. You know, now all of a sudden, instead of me never wanting to see it again, I'm now all of a sudden obsessed with it. And just, I think, you know, maybe that's an argument for why they, you know, banning things like that is not a bad idea. But yeah. Anyway, I think there's a lot of questions there that will never be answered. But I think my point that I wanted to make with bringing up this topic was just like, let's ask ourselves why so many people would want to re-upload that, and maybe consider if there's small things that can be done differently, like maybe not using the people's names or faces and things like that might help alleviate some of this.
I feel like that's a small thing that goes a really long way. It's like a small little thing. Just don't say the name, don't show the picture of the person's face, and it's like, I feel like it's such a small act that does so much more than the actual effort in order to do it.
Right. I think one thing you're seeing that's interesting too is you're seeing a cultural shift around that. Like people are becoming aware of don't say the name, don't say the face, and that's like spreading more and more. And at the end of the day, it's cultural shifts. I've talked about this before on the podcast, but it's cultural shifts that cause a change. It's not government regulations. It's not Facebook policies. Like what actually causes the shift is people going, you know what? I'm not going to share that video. I'm not going to watch the video. I'm not going to seek it out. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to give power to that person. It's that cultural shift that actually changes things. And that's what needs to spread. You can try to make all the rules you want in the world, but at the end of the day, like human beings, like they're going to do their own thing.
We make our own rules.
Yeah, man. Like there's human nature, and like you can try to make as many rules against human nature as you want, but it's not until like human culture shifts that human nature can become something different.
Totally. All right.
Let's talk about something happier.
Yeah, let's talk about something lighter. Here's a cool
the majority
thing that
of things in the world are good.
That's
true.
True. Actually,
the majority, more people in the world are
doing good things every single day that don't get reported.
Yeah, doing fun and exciting
and
things.
Here's one thing
and
that's
they're
happening.
most likely surviving them.
Right. So Lilly Singh,
like flying planes.
You all know her as Superman on YouTube here.
What?
Superwoman.
Superwoman.
So yeah, sorry.
Superman.
Lilly Singh, aka Superwoman, was selected to host a late night NBC show that will replace the Carson Daly's Last Call, which is going off the air after 17 years.
Is this a lateral move, Nico, or is this an upgrade?
So the new show is reported around a half hour, will include interviews as well as pre-taped segments and comedy sketches, and it makes Singh one of a few women in history to host a late night program on a broadcast network. I'm all about this. I think this is really cool.
I think this is fantastic on almost every single level.
Yeah, like she not only is she she knows what the YouTube grind is, you know. She started just like everyone else. She like has a loyal audience and she makes stuff that's actually creative. And I've never met her personally, but everything that
she's talented and witty.
She seems like this seems like a really cool thing, and I think it's also just another big step in the blending of traditional and digital media, which eventually those terms will go away, I think, entirely.
Yeah. I do think it was a very smart move on NBC's part to bring her on.
What are the kids doing? Oh, they're watching this Superwoman. Hey, she does this with her fingers.
You know, it's funny. It's just like every once in a while, like those people, those gray, you know, elderly like executives, you know, they make a good move. You know?
Totally.
Unlike the guys at the Oscars. But these NBC execs, they got something going, it seems.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, though. It's pretty sweet. I mean,
I think it's good for everyone. Like, you know, just having access now for people like us or other people in our community, having access to her, having that platform as well. You know, it's just
just so it goes to show you can be a YouTuber and talented at the same time.
Right.
It's
and
not
even
new
though
media anymore.
even though she's Canadian, I feel like this is like the epitome of the American dream right here. So anyway, I think it's cool.
You don't have to be American to be the epitome of the American dream.
That's true.
That's part of the American dream, right there.
Yeah,
Heaven,
exactly.
we're all
That's
Americans.
the beauty of it. Oh my God, we have to do something with that. That is so funny.
Nah, just messing around.
Stop hitting the table.
Sorry, the table's
Sam
just
just
right
drops
for
the bass.
smacking.
Let's write
all
a
the
country
time.
and western song, Sam, called "In Heaven Everyone's American."
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. All right. Do you guys want to talk about? We're going to talk about both of these, but do you want to talk about Project Stadia first, or
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about Project Stadia.
Project Stadia.
We
Okay.
didn't even get to the second topic. What was the second topic going to be?
An interesting copyright thing.
Project Stadia.
All right.
So I'm pretty excited about this.
All
I
right.
think this will be cool.
Someone explain.
Yes.
Yes,
Nico,
please.
Here
go.
we go.
Explique.
Phil Harrison, who used to work for, I think it was Sony, has now been working for Google and leading this project. And Project Stadia was basically, you guys remember OnLive back in the day?
Yes.
So OnLive was like a little box you put on your TV, and when it would stream your, basically, okay, I'm doing a horrible job.
It's a gaming streaming service.
All right, here we
It's
go.
like Netflix for games.
Well, no, what does that mean? Like Twitch? Heck no. Here's how it works.
but for playing.
Your computer is
Don't tap
stored
the table.
at Google's data center. Your controller is at your house. And what happens is you hit your input on your controller, it goes into your Wi-Fi, it goes to the internet, it goes to their data center, it changes something on their computer, and it sends back your image. So basically imagine your console being really far away in someone else's network hub.
But
That's basically what Project Stadia is.
OnLive sucked because the latency sucked,
Mm-hmm.
and that is kind of the issue with all online gaming.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Just
the
this
latency.
latency.
Yes, because
is-
you're waiting for your signal to go all the way out there, hit their computer, get rendered, and come all the way back and get displayed on
So
your TV.
how is this different?
So Google, as you might know, owns the internet basically.
They have a lot of servers.
I'm being a little facetious here, but Google has a lot of network infrastructure. So they're getting around all the different hops and changes and connections that you have to do, and they're just straight piping it right to their server. And here's the other thing. You might imagine that, like, oh, when you send a signal, it has to like go to the other side of like America. The reality is that Google has a data center probably within a 50-mile radius of where you are, no matter where you are in America. There's, I
Yeah.
think, 7,500 or 6,500 data centers.
Really
So-
in America?
Yeah, in America.
Wow.
So every single city basically has one in it. So at that point, all you're doing when you're hitting a button is just, like, if we're here in our studio and we wanted to use it, it's just going to a data center that's maybe a mile away in downtown and coming back. It's probably a data center we filmed Sync at.
Probably.
Yeah. So it's really not going that far, and then Google has the network infrastructure to directly send it right there without hopping between a bunch of different hubs. So it becomes a lot faster. I've heard that the latency is like 20 to 30 milliseconds. Just for reference, a frame at 60 frames per second is 16 milliseconds. So you're basically one frame behind your video game, which is more or less unnoticeable. The thing is, most people don't realize this, but if you have your video game console hooked up to your TV with HDMI, you're like 70 to 200 milliseconds behind.
Yeah, and that's I've played on some TVs that just have really slow processing speeds. So it's like the input lag from your controller. You press up, and you press down. It's like I can't even play on those TVs.
No, neither can I. It's awful. But people didn't really notice until they got Guitar Hero, and it's like, I'm missing a lot of notes on this TV for some reason. So Project Stadia is basically like letting you not have to own a computer, not have to own a console. You just own your controller, and it connects to your Wi-Fi, and then you play from that, and it gets piped to your Chromecast or whatever on your TV.
So or your phone,
or your
laptop,
or your iPad, or your laptop, any screen basically. It can hop to it. So you imagine you're playing on your TV, and you're like pause, and you grab your controller, you go into your like kitchen, and you open your iPad, and you hit play, and then it just pops on your iPad, and you keep playing. That's pretty neat. It's really cool. But it's kind of been done before, right?
I like that story though. What happened there? So you were playing on your TV, and you just got kicked off your TV.
Yeah.
And now you have to play on your iPad in the kitchen alone. But now it's possible.
Now it's possible. The thing is, there's things like Shadow
Fine,
PC,
Dad.
there's On Live. So like, what makes this different? Outside of, well, one, it's the latency and the fact that Google has a really fast infrastructure. But two, there's a couple other really unique things happening here. And this is what really starts to make it special. First off, your game state is being constantly saved. So that's kind of like the same of having a quick save that's going all the time. Just quick save, quick save, quick save, quick save, quick save, and it's just all being logged. And so imagine, if you will, you're watching Shroud play PUBG. Well, actually, that wouldn't work as a multiplayer game. Imagine, if you will, you're watching me and Sam at Node playing Resident Evil 2, the remake on PC. And we're getting this big boss fight. It's getting really crazy. We've got a bunch of rockets, and we're about to get in this awesome showdown. And you're like, boy, that looks fun. And then you click on it, and you go to that exact moment in the game on your Stadia setup and start playing it. Because any save state you can load up. So it's like having a time code stamp for like a video, but for a video game. So you can just jump right to that moment and start playing right from that moment with the exact same settings and the exact
With
same
the people that are in the
state.
game?
That could be pretty
No,
cool.
you can do it with multiplayer.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be single player.
It seems like it's really good for
That's
like
crazy.
story-based games too, where people are about to make a decision. You're like, whoa, don't do that, and then you can hop in and see what happens.
Yeah.
Make a new decision.
But you can't hop in with the person that's in the single player game.
No.
It's basically just like watching a game video, and then just suddenly you're playing it.
So it'll give you all the same things that happened prior to that moment.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's like literally just stealing their game save and playing from that same point.
I wonder that here's something funny. That like Twitch plays Pokemon, like how they had this thing where there's like this group-based game that was going. You could probably do something really funny like that, where it's like musical games basically, where you have a save state that's being streamed, and it's being passed around to like random users who get to make decisions, like one button press at a time or something.
That'd be cool.
Maybe
really
each person has 5 seconds to do whatever they want.
Yeah, if everyone has 5 seconds in the game.
Somebody's definitely gonna steal your idea, Sam, and make that happen.
When's this coming out?
I don't know. Do you guys want to hear the dark side of Stadia?
Always.
Ooh, what's up? Lift up those servers. What's underneath?
I mean, they are doing something interesting here with the controller. So they've designed their own new controller. You can continue to use USB controllers from any other game console from the last 10 years or whatever.
Good.
But the Stadia controller is specifically hooking up to the server directly through Wi-Fi. It's not actually connecting to your Chromecast or your laptop or whatever. It's completely separate, and it's communicating directly with the Google servers to decrease that lag even further.
Which is crazy.
So I was like, okay, it's the main reason why I've never really been interested in online game streaming, because it's like the latency is not there. But if it is there, and I could just like pull out my phone and have like a great high quality PC gaming experience, just like all I have to do is have the internet. It's like, I think that's pretty interesting. But now I'm interested in hearing the dark side of this.
The dark side. Imagine, if you will, a subscription-style platform for playing video games like YouTube, where they encourage you to create the most watch time. But instead, it's playtime for a video game. Whichever
Playtime,
video game
guys.
gets the most playtime, gets the biggest slice of the ad revenue and subscription revenue.
You get
So
the biggest
anybody
pinata.
out there making the biggest grind fest with the best little like Skinner box loot boxes to just suck away as many minutes from people as they can is going to make the most revenue.
Because they want you to stay on the platform as long as possible.
Imagine for a second, if you will, what kind of video games that's going to be incentivizing people to make.
Destiny, but less fun.
Exactly.
Okay.
We've already seen the
Apex
kind of
Legends and Fortnite.
We've already seen the kind of filler that you get on YouTube with how the algorithm promoted watch time. There's no such thing as a tutorial that's 2 minutes long. Every tutorial is huge, and every video has filler. Even our videos have some filler, but we've gotten way better at that. Our videos are actually mostly killer now.
Killer or killer.
But not before. They didn't used to be killer.
Don't you think that they'll do something about that, though, if it starts to ruin the platform?
Yep, it's optimism coming in here. Optimism. Smashing through
Optimism
that
or
wall.
optimization?
Optimism. Smashing through like Mr.
Optimism,
Kool-Aid.
optimizing.
Boom,
It will
comes
be
through.
just good enough for
Phases.
people not to complain about
No,
it.
it's phases. It's phases.
Yeah, well, still making them on the platform as long as possible so
Exactly.
they can
No.
consume as many
It's gonna be
ads
the
as
same as like
No.
daytime television.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right, Alex Jones.
It'll be talk show hosts, like easy to produce per minute.
how dare you?
Conspiracy theories. No, it's all in
It's
phases.
not a conspiracy
It's
theory. That's
phases.
just
It's-
economics.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's basically economics. It's
Hey-
going to lead to a promotion of a certain type of game, which is a easygoing time sucker.
But
Hey,
if it
boyos.
goes too far, people will revolt.
Right, and then they'll pull it back and they'll find that nice middle ground. But here's what here's what I'm worried about. I don't play video games to kill time. I don't have time to kill. I don't like killing time. You're killing a little bit of yourself when you kill time. That's really deep, guys. You can take that one home.
We are time.
Here, let me talk.
No, hold on. I play video games for you.
That's why I've been interrupting you guys. 'Cause
Sorry,
I'm trying to
I'm
say
almost done.
something.
I'm almost done. This is what I'm getting to.
Optimistic
I play
Sam
video
over
games.
Ever
there.
since I started saying optimism, because I was about to actually
wait,
go
wait.
into it as
Let's
something.
finish the pessimism, and then we'll get
Sam's
to the
like, your train is on the tracks. Get out of the way. My train's getting in here.
It's optimistic as shit.
This is one of those trains you
Sam
wait at the
doesn't care
freaking
what I have to
crossroads for like
say.
15 minutes, and the cars
You're
keep
waiting
going
for
past.
it to run over the penny.
And it's just like the Nico train. All the train cars just.
Did you guys
Come
ever
on.
set out pennies and watch
No,
trains?
no.
crash?
Nico, finish your thought.
I'm
Please.
looking. I can't even see the
Finish your
caboose of this
thought.
train. This Nico train. It's like.
I'm just trying to say that I play video games for emotional
Oh
stimulation. I want my video games to move me and be emotionally fulfilling. And you don't do that by having me sit on the couch and grind away for hours on end.
That sounds sappy. You
I
must
want my
love
video
those,
games to be like the
those,
Stanley
like,
Parable or Portal 2.
Japanese
There'll always be
Wow.
games like
where
that,
it blows
though.
me away with
They're
awesome
not going to be the
setups.
most popular games in the world, but it's the same thing like oil.
Yeah.
Okay, eventually when all the cars are electric, people will still buy oil, but it'll be like super expensive, and you'll buy it in the little jar,
Right, so-
and you'll use it for the 1905 Model T that you have.
I'll have to wait for the little like
Or,
pokey
you know,
devs.
all plastic.
Oh, okay. Anyways, so
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of like the Destiny style.
no,
video
I think those games are stupid and they're lame and they're for kids because it's like
Because kids want to kill time.
because kills want to kill.
So what's your
time.
optimistic point of
No,
all this, Sam? Because I'm not buying it.
Look, I think it's just going to come in phases and waves. Like things get popular and then they don't get popular, and basically if they oversaturate the market, the one like cool story-based RPG like experimental thing that comes out that year is going to blow up or like be popular, and then people are going, oh, let's just make something else now. Like it still happens like right now. Like we're still seeing tons of like incredible games coming out that are experimental or emotional, making me cry. You know,
What's the last game that made you cry? A game has made you cry before?
I don't know. Let me think.
Smash Brothers when I beat him this
Yeah,
morning.
it was Smash Brothers.
I saw Sam weeping.
2 minutes ago, I had to wipe the tears away from my little screen.
You were weeping?
When Ren took his Bowser and tackled Sam right off the edge, and I won because both of them only had one stock. Sam was crying.
No, games don't make me cry.
Son.
The only game that made me cry ever was The Last Guardian. That was a cryful game.
All right. All right.
How much longer do you think the battle royale genre is gonna continue trucking away?
I mean, how long
I mean,
does
it'll be around
FPS?
forever.
FPS is here to stay.
But I don't think anyone understood what made PUBG effective. I think everyone got it wrong.
Okay.
Even
think-
Apex Legends. Legends.
Yes. Apex Legends is a different style of game. That's the thing. It's like it's quote unquote battle royale. Same with Fortnite, quote unquote battle royale. Fortnite gets a little bit of it right, but I think Apex Legends is like PUBG is a little bit different. PUBG you create more of a story when you play it. And hey guys, we're gonna talk about video games for a second here. Here we go.
Back to video games.
Back to video
Wait,
games.
No, we're still on
That didn't
video
take
games.
long.
Hold on.
So there was with basically video game shooters, there was one style format that you stuck with for years and years and years. Halo kind of followed the same gameplay loop. Call of Duty followed the same gameplay loop and made it even better. And like other video games came out and followed the same gameplay loop, which is give you cool guns, give you cool tactics, have things be slightly imbalanced. When you go into a situation, it's interesting. And pop, 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 bang, 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 see who wins, do it again. Great. Counter-Strike
30 seconds of
started
fun.
it. Yeah, exactly. Counter-Strike started it. Here's the issue. Tactics for gunplay in video games, when you don't value your character's life, tactics are very different. You becomes a twitch fest. It becomes jump in right in front of the other guy. He's done the same thing, and so you can twitch the fastest, or so you can have the best positioning when somebody runs into a room. PUBG changed that. PUBG was inspired by DayZ, because DayZ kind of kicked this off, which was, hey, what if your character just died forever when you died? How would you play a shooter then? You wouldn't run into a room to see how many people you can drop before you go down. You would play it very, very differently.
Yeah.
And when you create value for the character's life, it changes how you approach a situation tactically. And honestly, that's kind of what makes a gunfight more interesting. It's not how twitchy you can be, but how can you approach a situation to get out of there without getting shot. And so that creates very different tactics. It creates very different ways you position yourself. It creates very different ways you approach a situation with friends, because it's not, who can go in there Rambo the quickest and go out in the biggest blaze of glory. So this was happening in DayZ, but the problem with DayZ is that you have to wait like 4 hours before you could get into like a real fight, because you have to go find all your stuff, and then if you died or the game glitched out, it was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And then they basically took that concept. It's actually Player Unknown, Brandon or whatever his name is. He had played it wasn't the Hunger Games, it's the Survivor Games from DayZ, and he got inspired. He's like, this like has people value their life. It has people treat gunfights completely differently, and the extra benefit, tactically, your experience in a gunfight is always different, because you're not just playing the same map. You're not just doing DE Dust 2 over and over and over, because the fights boil down to a different area of the map every time, and tactically, you have to approach it differently every time. And so then he went off and he made the Battle Royale mod for Arma, which is more or less the same thing as what you play in PUBG these days. And that circle, when it closed in different areas, would force you to approach the fights differently. Are you fighting in the valley between two mountains? Are you fighting in a city? Are you fighting on the coast? Each one of those is a different way of how you have to approach the battle. And on top of that, you have value for your character's life. It's not just go out there and get as many kills as you can. So that got brought into PUBG, and what it led to is it creates a story when you play the video game. You're emotionally involved in the game. You have this dramatic adventure you go through as you go through the hills, and you find your cars and your guns, and you fight your way to eventually winning the game. In a game like Apex Legends, still a super fun game, it's not really about this dramatic emotional story. Apex Legends is starting to blur the line back between getting back into like the instant action, get into some quick fights, but you still have a little bit of the emotional journey of a battle royale game. But it's not going in the direction that PUBG was pushing games towards, whereas I think something like Escape from Tarkov is PUBG taken even further into the like emotional rawness of.
See,
like,
I never got into that.
story.
I think that's why I never got into like PUBG or Tarkov for that matter. It's like I didn't have the patience for it. It's like I totally understand the feeling of going for the story and the adventure and the experience you get from that. But part of me is also just like I just want to jump in and shoot some people and then like jump around, and then if I die,
that's totally cool. I'm totally down for that too. Yeah, I think I mean everybody has their different types of games, but I think Battle Royale is not just about going in, shooting people as fast as you can, and hope that you're the last one alive, which is kind of what like Call of Duty's Battle Royale like push towards, and it's a little bit what Apex Legends pushes towards. It's like Apex Legends pushes more towards team play actually, more than like any other Battle Royale game. And it's just like Apex Legends has the team play aspect more motivated and promoted. It also has the tactical, like each tactical engagement is different because of how the areas you're getting pushed into is different. And so it has those aspects like PUBG taken over. It doesn't really have the like I'm going on a long journey. I really value my character's life. I've been invested in this for half an hour. It doesn't really have that going on for it. You can die. Your teammates can go to a little thing and revive you with your cell phone, But that's cool. Like at least they're experimenting with the formula, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Speaking of video games, the Des Moines Police Department played a real-life video game this week when they were assisting the fire department during an apartment building fire. And officers rescued 3 small children from the fire by instructing the mother to drop the kids out of the 3rd-story window, where all 3 were safely caught by the officers below.
Oh, are we about to see a video?
What video game is this?
This is real life. This is IRL Policeman.
Catch. Just the game Catch.
No, this is Human Tetris.
Human Tetris.
So we're gonna watch this video really quick, and
I'll
describe it to those who are listening only.
I'm like, dang it, T-shaped.
Garrett's trying to find that play button.
So if you're watching on YouTube,
so there's a huge fire. There's a huge building on fire. It's like 3 stories high. There's the woman and her kids.
Did the mother jump out?
They eventually got a ladder and got her down as well, but I guess the kids there was a lot of smoke and they were concerned about the kids
Yeah.
So here, there goes one of them.
Oofja. How many pounds do you think that kid weighs?
Dude, look at this. Look at that baby.
Wow.
Look at the baby. He's crying. Poor thing.
Yeah, because he just got hucked out of a window.
Man, good on those guys for catching those kids.
So that baby, what? That's
Seriously.
20, 25 pounds, and then those.
So it's like 2.5 stories. It's not
the
a full
fire looks so far away. I guess it
story.
must have been filled with smoke or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that in a fire, it's not the fire that kills you, but the smoke.
Right. Yeah. So
I
I think
could
that's
see it
why
like
they
a
did
minute.
it. Because
Good for the mother for actually dropping the kids out, because it's like, I remember reading one story a long time ago of a father who was stuck in the same situation,
Yeah.
and he was trying to get his kids to jump, so he decided to demonstrate it on his own by jumping first,
Oof.
and his kids didn't follow, and they didn't make it.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's that can be tough. So
You gotta trick him. You gotta trick him.
So would you guys? So if you guys were in
There's
that
toys out there.
situation, would you think you'd be able to successfully catch the kids? Be honest
I would
with
like
yourself.
To think so. I think I could.
And the harder question is, would you be able to successfully get them out the window?
Oh, ooh, Gorski cutting deep. I mean, if you
I mean,
didn't have a
I'll
choice,
stand
though.
underneath a child. I'm gonna stand underneath that falling child.
D did that with me.
He did that. And Clint, well, his shin. He put his shin out.
Yeah, that would be a tough
What a
thing.
hero.
I mean, but if you're like at the window, there's a heavy smoke. There's the fires in the room next door, and it's like,
It's a pretty good
I got
motivator.
3 children here. They're all under 3. They're gonna die from smoke inhalation if I don't get them out right now.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have a choice. You'd have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'd be a pretty good motivator. I feel like, I mean, the window wasn't super high up either.
No, it was like 2.5 stories. It wasn't
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
The first story was like basement level, so the window was right at the ground.
Yeah.
For those who weren't watching the video.
Especially if there's like multiple people down there, which it looked like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To that sea of arms.
This,
I mean, it's like Eddie Vedder jumping off like the concert stands, like from 30 feet to the crowds.
that's crazy.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jarrett, will you pull it up?
This this segment was brought to you guys by Ropes.
Brought to you by Big Rope.
By Big Rope. Ropes, always there when
That's
you need
right.
them.
The last distributor of hemp.
Yeah.
So let's say you guys are in this situation, but there are no firefighters to catch your babies. Would you still drop them?
No.
No, this topic is brought to you by Rope.
This
Rope.
topic brought to you by Rope. No, because that's like almost certain death for a child under 3.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd
Alright.
rather. I mean, I would probably jump, depending on how many there were. If I had one in my arms, I'd probably jump and try to like cushion the fall for them
Yeah.
and break my legs, then like just drop them.
Yeah.
All right, so.
All right, Eddie
Jarrett
Vedder's
here.
biggest stage dive ever, 1992,
So he just went from a mother saving her children to Eddie Vedder's biggest stage
which
dive
is
ever.
almost he's like a father to his children, the
I'd say
concert goers.
Scrub around until you can find it. This is 6 minutes long.
Yeah,
long-
scrubbing through a
Wait till
concert.
he starts
Scrub-a-dub-dub.
scrub a dub dub, boys. Okay,
So
he's
Eddie
up
Vedder
on a
is the,
camera. Whoa!
Oh, he
He
freaking
almost
slept.
He almost slipped.
I mean, he did
What?
slip.
That,
Okay, he climbed up on a camera crane and jumped about 20 feet
Hold
into
on,
the
hold on.
crowd.
Keep scrubbing.
Oh,
This
he
video's
keeps
long
going?
enough.
He keeps
He's-
going?
he's like-
For those who don't know, Eddie Vedder is the lead singer,
singer
of
of
Pearl
Pearl
Jam.
the popular
So
90s band.
that was what, maybe 10 feet?
That was
20
like
feet?
15.
15?
He's like, I can jump higher than that.
He's done bigger
Can you
dives.
take me higher,
Basically.
cameraman?
That
No,
was
he's done
wasn't that
bigger
Creed?
dives.
Jared's
Yeah, but
shaking.
Creed is
I
based
know
off
it's
of Pearl
Creed,
Jam.
but yeah, it's like Christian Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Eddie Vedder did like huge, like scaffold
I
jumps.
think that was it,
Who
Nico.
knows? I think that was it. I think
All
we
right.
got it.
All right, moving
Those
on.
little wet, slippery feet.
Ren, this is a topic for you specifically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, Eddie Vedder's just Ren, but the rock singer version.
Oh wait, Nico found
What?
it.
Yeah.
Nico found it. Oh my god! Nico
Wait.
found a video of Eddie Vedder and he's like
Put it
30
on-
feet in the
Jared,
air.
put it on
Eddie
Slack.
Vedder must crazy theatrical.
theatrical on stage.
Must
crazy
crazy-
theatrical on stage. That's the title of the
Yeah.
video. Eddie Vedder must crazy
All right,
theatrical.
5 minutes long. 5 minutes long,
If Ren
boys.
was a punk rocker guy,
Scrub-a-dub.
Eddie Vedder would be Ren. Because here he is, hanging from the underside of a roof of an awning.
With the he somehow has the same shirt on as the previous.
Oh
Okay, I
my
never do
goodness.
anything this
is
crazy.
my question is the band just like like holding it down right now? Are they
playing the same 4 measures over and over?
or is it silent right now?
There's a
So he's
microphone.
climbing. All right, he's climbing
hanging in the
across.
middle.
For those of you who are watching, or listening only, he's climbing across a 30-foot high stage awning, and a PA is handing him a microphone. Now he's hanging from the awning about 30 feet above stage, while a PA in a goofy hat, and now he's climbing down a rope. See, this is
No,
brought
the
to you by-
microphone. He just climbed down the microphone
cable.
Did he climb down the microphone cable?
This episode brought to you by Big Cable.
Big cable.
Wow.
Now he's swinging from it.
That's
Who
gotta
is
be
this
a rope.
guy?
That can't be a microphone.
I think the microphone would break, right?
Yeah.
Those cables aren't that strong.
I mean,
I think you'd be surprised. I mean, they're metal.
See, that PA is having the time of his
yeah,
life.
he's having the time of his life.
Okay, this turns out it was just one highlight.
Okay,
One highlight.
but he didn't
Anyway.
We get the
dive.
point,
He didn't
though.
dive. All right, what a crazy guy. What
He's
a wild
dived
and
from like
crazy
30
guy.
feet up
What a
before.
wacky
I've seen it.
I didn't
I
know
kn- I
anything
know.
about Eddie
So we-
Vedder
so
before
we
this.
say.
I just knew he had long hair and he had a deep, romantic voice.
Creed-like voice.
Just to say, if Eddie Vedder was 2.5 stories up,
He'd freaking
would
jump.
jump out.
He'd jump out with all of his
So
children.
anyway, with
the
all the
concert
children,
goers.
they'd
he'd
all
start
hold the
singing.
hands.
He'd be like, "Ready to take me."
I love how we're equating Creed with.
Jeremy Sportman. And then everybody comes in and like they gather around like, yeah.
He'd be like, Jeremy, get on my
And then he'd
back.
throw his microphone out the window, and all the kids would dive after it.
So Jake,
Oh my
I want to hear
God.
about this thing that
All
you
right,
thought I
all
would
right.
like.
Yes. So apparently, Ren, I'm gonna hyper exaggerate this, just like all the news articles I read about it did. Scientists have created a liquid metal that stretches like the Terminator 1000. Now let me explain before you correct how ridiculous this is.
Sorry,
Okay.
T1000 specifically, not
Yeah.
just like
No,
Terminator.
not
Like
Terminator 2.
Terminator.
I'm talking about
Arnold
T1000.
Schwarzenegger did not
The
stretch.
American Chemical Society released a video Wednesday of a shiny liquid metal that can be manipulated with magnets. It stretches like the fictional T-1000 robot from Terminator 2 and can also be used to complete a circuit. Scientists at the Beihang University in China led the research project, which added iron particles to a droplet of gallium, indium, and tiny alloy immersed in hydraulic acid. Which apparently was able to lower the surface tension and allow the metal to be able to stretch and move without breaking apart. So the question is, how far off are we from the T-1000, and what actual advancements could this mean for humanity?
So they basically made like plastic metal.
But before that, Ren, is this legit?
I mean, what they're doing is legit. Hydraulic acid, specifically reducing the surface tension so they can actually like mold and move this metal without breaking it. Because adding like iron flakes to gallium isn't really that creative. It's like, okay, it makes sense. So now it'll look like gallium, but it'll move like iron.
Doesn't mercury already do this? And isn't mercury a metal?
But it's not magnetic.
Okay.
And
So it can't conduct.
what?
Mercury can't conduct electricity.
No, it can. That's different.
it's metal.
Every
Magnets
metal
and being magnetic and being an electrical conductor are different things.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, it's like there could be some creative applications for this. I mean, it's not really that much different than like a ferrofluid, which is basically just a liquid solution of iron flakes that you can put magnets on. They make like the cool little like triangular shapes around it and stuff. But
Why can some metal be magnetized and other not?
I don't know. I honestly don't really know.
Okay.
But it's like there's only just a few.
I'll Google that one after the podcast.
It's like I forget what the metals are. It's like iron, cobalt, or
Is it one of those weird things in physics, like where we know what it is, but we don't know why it is?
No,
we know
magnetism's-
very well all about that.
It's from
I don't.
Oh, okay.
It's from like the electrical fields of all the atoms being aligned, right?
Something like that. Probably.
Yeah. Actually, I think
Yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah, there we go.
Sounds right, but
There we
I
go.
think I heard that one
Hey, I'll say it with more
time.
See,
confidence.
this-
Oh, it's from all the electrical fields and all the atoms being aligned.
Oh, yeah.
This is how science
definitely,
was
yeah.
started, actually. Just like this. Someone has an idea, and everyone's like, okay.
Okay, so, but my point is, do you is this the starting point from which we can create soft robotics and like?
What is a soft robot?
I mean,
like
the short
how
answer
soft
is-
do your dang robots have to be, Jake?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say because it's like I feel like this is the equivalent of being like, "Whoa,
What?
I made a transistor. That means someday we're gonna have really high quality video games." It's like it's a kind of a big stretch, and a lot of things have to happen
I
in
know.
between the two things to really connect it. People are only creating this.
You know what kind of metal can do a
Core-
big stretch?
What
just like,
kind of dad joke are you about to drop right now?
That was it. That was it. That was done. That was my dad joke.
Yeah, I
right
mean,
there. That metal.
It's just because of the fact that it's very reflective. It's a chrome-like material that they're able to move, and so it reminds people of the movie Terminator 2.
Yeah.
That's the only correlation. It doesn't mean that it'll actually create that
Are you
technology.
telling me this
someday.
entire article is written off of one picture?
wait, I'm just trying to get
It
another.
was. No research was
I've
put
got a
into
deeper
it.
point though. It's like, okay, what in your everyday life do you use that is gooey and stretchy and amorphous that you don't eat? Like, why would you? And if you do, what is it? So we can replace it with metal.
No, I'm just saying, like,
What would you
eventually.
use this
Like
for?
squishy buttons in your game controller.
Hold on. Let me back up.
Little
Let me
metal
back up.
squishes out around it.
Let me
Yeah,
back
now-
up. Here's what
now
I mean
metal
about
game
soft
control.
robotics, okay? The Terminator 2 extrapolates this with the example of the T-1000. It's a intelligent AI robot that can take any shape or form.
Intelligent, artificial intelligent.
It's an
Yeah,
AI
sure.
robot. It's an AI robot
Tech-
that can take any shape or form.
So the biggest difference there with that robot is that it wasn't just a big gooey mess of metal. It was like literally trillions of nanoparticles
Exactly.
that all have their own separate like brain,
Okay.
and they all are able to work together.
I mean,
Exactly. The one thing
Nanobots.
they didn't show you in the Terminator movie, in Terminator 2, is like if he got blown apart into enough pieces, it would just be like two smaller versions of him.
there's just a bunch of tiny ones.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that was something that was never explored, but
They-
no,
they
they
didn't
did that.
explore it.
Possible.
They did that.
But totally
They
possible.
blew him apart and then he morphed back
I know,
together.
but what if
There
they
were two
what-
of them though. There should
what
have been
if-
two
Like
half
he can
size.
literally dissolve his
That's what I'm saying.
He gets shot with a shotgun down the middle, splits in half,
Just
two little cops pop up.
yeah.
each one exactly
Join
half the
hands
mass of the original.
morph together.
Like he can, in theory, just like literally just collapse into 10 different versions of himself that each weigh a tenth of his
right,
original
why
weight.
didn't he do
If you
that and
split
then
him in
just steal
half-
go-karts and go after him with tiny shotguns?
Ren, what's the correct math here? If you
makes
split him in
tiny
half, would his height be a quarter of his original height? His two halves? Or
Oh,
would
are
they
you talking
be
about the
the T1000? If you split him in
square
half,
law, square cube law?
mass-wise, yeah.
I'm not sure.
No, I think you might be right here.
It would have to
actually.
be like-
They
Ren,
didn't-
what good is it having you on the podcast?
Each one,
We can't ask you all of science questions and have you be right.
The thing that would have to be maintained would just be the weight, the mass. So it's like if each one is the mass, and it's a little different because they're metal, so the strength properties are all different. So it's like
So actually, yeah. So
he could just make a shell of himself that is the same volume as his
Yeah.
original self, but he's like maybe hollow.
I think
and
what
he would
we're
still
getting
weigh a
at,
tenth.
I think we're getting at, is a correction to our previous statement. It wouldn't make two half-size T1000s. It would make maybe slightly under half-size.
Or would it be slightly over half size?
When you say size, are you talking about volume or mass?
I'm just talking about
Volume.
Height. I'm talking about height.
Mass.
Height's the important
Height
factor here.
is so irrelevant.
Dear listeners to the
Well,
Corridor Cast, can
if
you
the
please
smaller
answer
they
my
are,
question?
the easier they are to fight.
If you split the T1000 in half and you made two smaller T1000s, assuming his mass has been divided proportionally half into each T1000, how tall would each new T1000
Are we
be?
talking about hot dog, or like straight down
This
the
is
center?
like an ACT.
Doesn't
like
matter.
split in two?
Doesn't
'cause-
matter.
Or
Literally
is
half
it like
exactly half of his math goes in math. Exactly half of his mass goes into the two tinier T1000s.
Then he'd be
Square
half
How
cube
tall
law.
would they
It's,
be?
Then
yeah.
it'd be
He is
half
6
the
feet
height.
long.
No, but we're
tall.
talking
He'd
about
be 3 feet
mass.
tall.
We're talking about
Not
mass.
a foot
No,
and a
no, no,
half.
no.
We're talking about
No.
mass and not height.
No, look.
But assuming that they each contain
he would
half his
split it
mass.
even proportionally
Hold
as
on.
he was as a
We're gonna
6
figure-
foot.
We're gonna figure this out. Don't worry. This was next podcast. We come back. We'll
Hold on.
open it with the
Hold
answer.
on. He's 6 feet tall.
Uh-huh.
He's a mass of 200 pounds, right?
Yeah.
Of metal. So if you split him in half, he'd be 3 feet tall, proportionally exactly the
I
same.
don't think so.
With a mass of 100.
I don't think so.
Why
Not-
would he be half that?
Oh my God! I think it's gonna be higher, taller than half his height actually.
But
Because
you took,
you're dealing with 3 dimensions.
but you took half the
volume.
weight, and
Uh-huh.
you just took half the weight out of the original weight, and then you just had that be exactly proportional to the original.
Yeah, but the distribution of that mass would be different.
Hold on. Because here, let me provide you guys an example. All right, I'm going to compare my height and weight with the height and weight of a 12-year-old. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So a 12-year-old average weighs 91 pounds. If
Okay.
you double that, that would equal
182 pounds.
about 182 pounds. So maybe more like a 13-year-old for me because I'm about 190. So either way, let's just say it's a 12-year-old.
Sure.
So stats. Average height though of a 12-year-old, half my weight.
But this is completely irrelevant to what we're talking about. You're talking
We're also
about human
forgetting-
growth trajectory. I'm talking
Okay,
about
yeah, there's a slight
I'm talking
difference in
about
head size.
weight.
Okay, but average 12-year-old that weighs half my weight is 4.9
This is
feet
we've
tall,
entered Sam's
okay?
bogus science
And
corner.
4.9 feet tall is not.
You're not
half.
9.5 feet tall. No.
So what I'm saying is that these two T1000s that we would create by splitting their mass in half would most likely be taller than half his height. I mean, he's kind of big still.
It's like we take teenage T1000s.
They're kind of big still.
If you're listening right now
so
and you
you
can do the
don't-
math for me, I will
so-
shout you out in the next podcast,
Okay.
and I will give you your
All right.
answer. Thank you,
Burn Keith's
listeners.
law.
The true answer is it's not a better situation to be in when it's split in half.
And also, this also doesn't take into account the fact that the T1000 can like shape himself to be whatever he wants. He can theoretically make himself to be twice as tall
Why didn't he
and
turn
twice as
himself
wide in
into a
every
big gun?
dimension.
Wait, what?
He probably
can't
could.
do that
Why not?
because he can't add.
No, he wouldn't be
can't
added.
add
He'd be the
mass.
exact same weight. He'd probably just be hollow in certain parts because he can make him like.
Why isn't he just a hollow
Guy-
30-foot tall
Because James Cameron didn't do it. That's why.
Well, then
Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the only reason.
Because the
No,
movie
okay,
would be
but
over in the first 2 minutes.
hold on. If James Cameron didn't do it, then it means that the robot can't do it because it was never shown. And James Cameron, as the auteur of the piece, has decided in that world that the nanotechnology cannot be hollow.
It's
You
just
bring
a
up a good
simple
point,
extension.
Precisely.
In the world of made-up things,
Well, this is actually like a film writing. Like we use this
Yeah.
all the time in writing. Like once you make a rule, you can't break it. Otherwise, it.
Why can't he have a hollow cavity if he can make his arm into a 4-foot-long blade
because of
and then
made-up
chop
reasons.
it off, grab it, and throw it and spike someone with it?
Because as they didn't, guess what they weren't showing in that shot? His legs. That's right. One of his legs got smaller and went into his arm.
Wow.
Also, he did lose a piece of himself in that one scene where they get away in that Lincoln, and he has the little like, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger shoots it off with the shotgun, and then
Yeah.
it's just hanging there, and it pops out on the street. And
Let's
then
see
he
how
co-
he's dead and disconnected.
And then
So
he
that little
walks.
piece
He
could-
walks up to it and absorbs it, but
Oh.
he's not any shorter when he walks up to it and absorbs it. So maybe you have circumstantial evidence for your claim.
or at least
I have a
maybe
question.
we
I
can
have a
take a look at the
question.
shot and see if he actually is
Is your
shorter.
mic on? Oh, there you
It's
go.
really quiet now,
Okay.
All right.
but now it's not quiet anymore. I have a question. Does hyper jumping a ship into a fleet and destroying the fleet ruin Star Wars from now
Absolutely not.
on? Why not? Because why are you not going to think of that every time they get into a space battle?
Like, why don't they just hyper jump and leave?
I know this has
hell
been
out of
done
there?
to death by everybody, but
I really don't
this
want
isn't
to
about
talk
this isn't about
that.
the details of Star Wars. This is about, does this make it so that anytime you watch a Star Wars space battle from now on, you're like, why don't they hyper jump?
Hey
Maybe
guys,
because-
in this episode
Maybe
of Who's
because they're not
Nerdier?
crazy suicidal kamikazes.
Why don't they put a droid in it?
All right, moving on.
I know, and how does it magically spike out and hit all the other spaceships perfectly?
We've got time for about 2 more topics.
But it looks cool.
I know.
All right, and
We're done with that.
I've got 3 listed here.
Can we just agree to never talk about Star Wars on the podcast?
I've got
or fan fiction for Star Wars?
I think we can agree to never argue about the scientific details of a fictional world.
No, well, it's fun
Like
to
we
muse
just
on
did
them.
for 10 minutes.
We
about
didn't
It's all
argue.
made up.
We didn't
But
argue.
The question about Star
We were
Wars
musing.
isn't whether or not it's possible in the world of Star Wars and whether it follows rules. It's more,
Did it
as
set
a
a precedent?
viewer, as a viewer, does it ruin battle scenes for you? Because
No.
are you going to be distracted every time there's a
no,
battle
because
scene?
they
No.
can't hyper jump without like doing certain stuff to your ship. And so if
No.
you're in the middle of a battle, you can't just stop the ship and decide to hyper jump unless you're crazy like Han Solo.
See, you're getting into the actual science of it, which is, again, you're talking about nonfiction in a fictional universe. I'm just talking about as a viewer.
I'm
is it
not
going
going to be
distract
thinking about
you?
it. I'm not. It's no.
I'm going to be thinking, why don't they just
Now you're going to think about it.
open those
Probably
spaceship
not.
Next
pods
time you see Star
and
Wars,
settle it man
you're
to
gonna
man
think
in
about
outer
me,
space?
and you're going to think about this podcast, and I'm going to make you think about it.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
But they also established there's no air in Star Wars in space. Or sorry, there is air in space in Star Wars because with the bombing thing, they just opened up the doors. So I was like, they should just settle it man to man.
Well, how
open up the spaceship windows, go out in space, and just like.
How is it that they can have like giant ships fly into the Death Star
Dude, that
on
reminds
these
me of-
open bays, and there's like troops walking around in those bays when they're exposed to the
those are
space
force
environment?
fields.
that's got
Those
force fields.
Those are force fields.
Oh, okay.
But that reminds me of my favorite
Same-
joke
you
from
just
Mars
answered
Gang
your
versus.
question a moment ago.
Oh my god, I did. I'm a genius.
So remember we were talking Mars Gang versus Moon Gang, and they're getting into a fight in space.
Oh,
And the guy
okay.
gets his helmet torn off. He's like,
Wait a second.
The air's
"Wait,
not
there's
toxic.
air? There's air in space?
And then it's a celebration. Everyone like, hey, terraforming's done. There's okay.
They lied to me the whole time.
Okay, Mars Gang versus
I
Moon
love that
Gang.
joke.
It's a.
We'll get there.
Just for what it's worth, it's a really silly idea about weed farmers on Mars. And we're seeing if it goes anywhere. That's what it is about. Anyways.
Do you remember the game Elite Dangerous?
Yeah.
I like how in that game...
I played that for hours.
Yeah. I like how in the game they the reason you could hear the explosions was it was the computer simulating it for you inside the ship. So it was a computer-generated explosion noise to help you as a pilot understand what was going on. And if your cockpit got cracked and all the air got sucked out, then it would take out all the sound from the computer, and you couldn't hear it anymore.
Damn, son.
That's attention to detail right there. That gets me into space.
All right, let's talk about Uber and Lyft.
Literally.
Okay. We all use Uber. What do you guys use, Uber or Lyft?
Lyft.
Uber.
I like to vote for the underdog.
Both.
You use both?
Yes.
Honestly, do you check both and find the cheaper price?
I did just a couple days ago.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I used to almost always use Uber, and just because I didn't have a Lyft account, but everyone's always like, oh, you should go with Lyft. Uber's evil, blah, blah, blah. And so I started actually, believing that, and so I started trying to...
Well, that's not true, but...
I know. But, like,
From a foundational element, they worship Satan.
People didn't like their CEO because he was a frat guy.
Right. I'm just saying that got me into, making a Lyft account, and so now I use both. But I'm just not I don't want to...
Okay, so we've all used both, right? Their IPOs are coming up, and the question is ultimately, they're continuing to operate at a loss, right, throughout all this time.
What?
Yes, everyone knows this.
I don't... What?
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense.
Uber and
But I
Lyft,
thought they're valued at billions of dollars.
yeah, Uber and Lyft have it is known, Nico. For years, Uber and Lyft have.
Wait. Are you saying they're operating at a loss because they're just taking all the profit they're making and reinvesting it?
No.
'Cause that doesn't count.
No, they're operating at a. So here's the thing. Let me just read this from the little blurb I wrote.
Like
because
Amazon
it makes more
operates
sense.
at a loss, but Amazon's making a ton of money.
With their IPOs at hand, Uber and Lyft are
doesn't
emphasizing.
reinvest
They're emphasizing that they are technology companies, not transportation companies, and therefore not subject to most rules for road-based businesses. So they say they're a company that connects millions of transportation providers to transportation consumers, but in that sense, they're only a tech company. And
just like Facebook's a tech company.
Yeah.
Good one, Sam.
And so basically, the whole time, in order to spur this growth and to operate, they've if you didn't know, their prices were always cheaper than taxis,
Right.
which is why they caught on in large part in the first place as well, because they were significantly cheaper. And so they've operated cheaply through two things. Number one, by operating at a loss, and number two, by being classified as a technology company.
I'm not sure I buy this operating at a loss thing, because I think you're simplifying what could very easily be we're making lots of revenue but reinvesting it into things in the company and spending it on stuff.
Well, okay.
Like if each ride Uber
regardless
takes home
of that, though, Nico, if that's true, right, at some point they'll need to show money on the books,
right,
for them to have a long-term strategy. So regardless of whether or not they're just operating at a loss on the books or whether they're truly operating at a loss is kind of irrelevant to the fact that as a company that's going public, eventually they'll need to show numbers that actually show profit in order for them to be sustainable. So where I'm going is there's two things happening right now. They're operating at a loss on paper, and two, they are classified as technology companies, not transportation companies.
I think that's really the main point here. Regardless of how much money they are or aren't making,
right?
That classification,
that is my first,
or that self-assessment, I think is really worth discussing.
Yes, so that's my first question: is that a proper identification? And then also, what happens? They're obviously super eager to develop self-driving fleets. So is this classification key to their success long term, where they can remain as tech companies, or should they be classified as transportation companies? And then also, is self-driving fleets key to their success long term?
Perhaps rather than trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, we should just make a new classification.
Which it would be what? A transportation technology company?
Transportation networking company?
No, a grinding company.
Well, that's what they describe themselves as.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
But here's an idea.
Does it though?
Here's an idea.
You don't think they should be subject to road rules and stuff like that?
They're not the ones operating the vehicles. The moment they're operating the vehicles, then yes.
But they're facilitating the entire economy.
Sure, but they're not. It's not like they're selling buses.
So let me give you an example back at you. So YouTube shouldn't be liable for the content it distributes.
Look,
they are.
Uber's only going to be around another 10, 20 years, and then it's going to be autonomous.
But then wouldn't they just own huge fleets of self-driving
If it's
autonomous
autonomous,
cars that act as a taxi service
If they
for
own
a
and operate
community?
the cars, then they are a road company.
But that's... So you think that there's, like, right now,
Well,
given... You think there... Because...
Let's get to a concrete example, guys. Because right now we're talking about conceptual. Positive versus negative effects of Uber. All right? Like, think about this. Are we talking about like rules and regulations concerning, like, congestion at, like, airports or in high-traffic areas?
I'm
like,
saying they should probably
specifically?
they should probably be classified as a transportation company because they provide transportation.
But what should they be regulated as? Like, just how, like, drivers unions and stuff like that, or like, are we talking about how they can when and where they can operate their vehicles?
It's to a point now where yes, they have thousands of people that are quote working for them, but as contractors, right? And then, like, at what point do you cross the line? I mean, we've had to deal with this with our own business. We've hired contractors, and at what point were we like, okay, we should probably try to have people be employees rather than contractors, because at a certain point it gets to a point where you're like, okay, this original setup, which I agree at the onset they probably were tech companies, but now, like, how far does it go before they become transportation companies?
So let me point out one thing. There's those are two topics actually, I believe. There's the topic of the 21st century gig economy, and then there's the topic of does Uber need to be, like, regulated as far as what their cars can and cannot do, because that's one is we're talking about the people, and one is we're talking about the equipment. You know what I mean? Like, can these Uber cars, are they banned from certain areas from a federal or state or local standpoint, et cetera, et cetera? But then the gig economy is its other topic.
Well, we all agree.
Which one do you feel more strongly about?
Well, what I'd like to say is, like, we all agree that it provides something, right? Everyone uses it. And so what's the key to their long-term success here? Is it getting away from a gig economy, or is it just simply, like, changing their fleets to autonomous self-driving so that they get away with that? They get away from that, and they also become transportation companies.
Self-driving sounds great.
Self-driving is fine, and honestly, I think from a roadway standpoint, as long as Uber continues to obey the road laws, then there's not much I think people need to do. Because when it comes to the actual vehicles themselves, it's like, as long as Uber doesn't get so big, they can start, like, avoiding paying ticket fines and causing congestion.
Okay, so let me, now that we know, I think, like, obviously we okay, I agree. Right now we're at a point where we say, okay, self-driving cars is probably key to their long-term success. They should go ahead and do that. Now let me pose another question. Should they own that fleet, or should they allow people with self-driving cars to contribute to that fleet and continue to skirt around this?
Both.
I think the constant insistence on taking what's a new, structured, modern company and shoehorning it into some old definition of what a company needs to be is, quite frankly, not putting in the effort that you need to do to evolve with the world. If Uber's a new structure of company, so come up with new structures to deal with it. Like, don't try to shoehorn it into some old-fashioned notion of, oh, this is a technology company or this is a road company. It's obviously a new structure, and you need to create new regulations and new ways of thinking about it.
Not to mention, how cool would it be to buy a self-driving car and then, like, basically at night you're just like, boop, you put it on rental mode and it just, like, goes off and makes money for you.
I mean,
that's what people are gonna do,
and it's gonna be awesome.
I mean, that's the promise Tesla has already made.
I think that's super cool.
There is one thing we haven't addressed about Uber and Lyft, and that is the whole like, electric scooter program. Right now it's all just Bird and Lime and whatnot. Lyft has come out and said recently, I think it was Lyft, it might have been Uber, that
Uber has them too.
I know they do, but they said that they fully expect the electric scooter sharing program to be 50% of the revenue in the very near future.
Really?
Dude, that scooter stuff is weird, because it's like,
or not just scooters, but like bicycles, electric bicycles, personalized electric mobility is what they see as the future of their revenue stream.
What these guys, I feel like what's going to actually happen here is very shortly people are going to wisen up to the fact that you don't have to be Uber or Lyft to have people, like, use your stuff, and, like, you're going to see lots and lots of, like, little homegrown, like, equivalents of Uber and Lyft popping up for, like, hey, e-bike share, well, you can go here and you can rent, like, my e-bike, and, like, everybody can sign up and we'll all get a cut. Like, you're going to see a lot of copycats, and I think you're going to see Uber and Lyft using government regulations to kill their competition in a very anti-capitalistic way.
We're already seeing that.
That's what I'm talking about.
You're seeing that in Santa Monica right now.
Yeah.
Ooh.
What's
And
going
in
on
San
there?
Francisco-
What's happening in Santa Monica?
Santa Monica, Uber and Lyft. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I'll go real quick. Uber and Lyft lobbied the Santa Monica government to say, like, yeah, these birds are a public nuisance. You need a company who's going to work with you guys for a regulation for a good, safe neighborhood. So you guys should ban all companies except for ours. We will be the ones to provide.
And they agreed to that.
Mm-hmm.
Woo, son.
And that's big business killing small business, ladies
that
and gentlemen.
ain't right, son.
Almost the exact
Especially
same thing
given the way
happened in
that
San
they came up.
Francisco, except for the entire city of San Francisco. And instead of being like only us, they basically managed to ban all electric scooters and hold basically an
general?
audition process in general.
Even
no,
if
sorry,
it's-
companies that
Okay.
share them. You can own your own and still go around. But like, so they held like an audition process essentially to reallow only like 3 or 4 different companies back in.
Yeah.
At the time, there were like
Now,
dozens.
I could, however, see you're not allowed to store your vehicle on the public sidewalk.
That's what I'm thinking. Where it's like
Yeah.
that nuisance of like, I love the convenience factor with them when I can.
Storing is about all yeah.
But ultimately, it's just like you're leaving your shit everywhere.
Yeah, and I think that's what everyone really hates
Put your
about
shit
it.
on
Most
the-
people
on a
don't
private
actually
spot.
hate the ride sharing itself. It's they don't like to have to like walk around the scooters when they're just
if
trying
they-
to go
if
down the
those
sidewalk.
if the scooters and whatever other forms of personal transpo they want to have are stored in a private area that's
Anybody should be
privately
able to do
paid
it.
for, then anyone should be able to do it. And it's the exact same thing as cars.
Mm-hmm.
You store your car where you're allowed to, either on the street. So either the sidewalks have special areas allocated for public parking of vehicles, personal vehicles, or you store it in a private area where you have at full right to park it. Other than that, everyone's allowed to use the road. Storing them in public areas without regard to like there being a designated area for that, I think, is a huge problem.
Yeah,
But,
and then I can see a city or any other government stepping in and be like, you can't just put your stuff on the
right,
sidewalks.
but then they should go, okay, let's mark off these parking spots with pink paint, and you can park them there.
Or
know?
maybe just, if
Or
you want to
make people-
if you want to run a private
Yeah,
business, talk to various private individuals to
You
store it on the
them in a-
property.
you store them in a parking, because there's plenty of parking lots that would allow you to park in a spot.
I have a dumb question. How long does a thing have to sit around for you to be able to take it legally?
No, that's like the essence of common law right there, man. That's how like laws are made.
How long though? So how long does a bird scooter have to sit on the sidewalk before I can take it?
usually
in that sense, like
does-
actual law right now.
I'm just gonna take it and now.
No, that'd be 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, in California.
if it sits there for 2 years,
If you leave
it
something
is
on
now up for
public
grabs.
property for 2 years, it
So let me
becomes-
get this straight. You
it's
didn't
free game.
you didn't abandon it, right? It's still owned by the person who, like a bird scooter.
I mean, whatever.
So he
sure.
parks a
I
bird
need
scooter in
facts
front of
to
our building.
determine to give you an
okay,
answer.
There's a difference. So you're saying there's a difference if I'm like I'm done with the scooter and that,
If
but I
you
don't
ab-
say that and I just throw it on the sidewalk.
Well, if
But I
that's
think
your
that-
intention and
then-
you abandon the property, then whoever picks it up next, it
What
owns.
if I never said that?
owns
I'm
it.
like, hey, actually, I still wanted that 2 years later.
Well, no, then that would be circumstantial.
What if you park your scooter in a spot and no one happens to touch it and you don't happen to touch it? How long does it need to sit in that spot? Until
Did
somebody can
you
walk up?
relinquish ownership of it?
You didn't say anything.
one
you just
knows.
put
You
it
didn't-
there.
No,
one
then
knows.
it's in it. Where is it parked?
Just on the side of the street.
It's on the public.
It's on a sidewalk.
It's on a sidewalk,
in an alleyway
a quiet-
somewhere.
a
Just
quiet
it's set
sidewalk.
somewhere.
Not private property.
No, then you haven't abandoned the property, but your actions have indicated to others that it's abandoned. So there's some ambiguity there.
So let's
it
say
would be
it's-
highly circumstantial in a situation where there's it's called conversion basically in the law, and so like this is what happened with that sword that Brandon made for that.
For the Ride in Metal
For
Gear
the
Solid.
Ride in Metal Gear Solid video, so that he borrowed or made a Metal Gear Solid sword, and the agreement was that the company would own the sword, but they never came for it. So he just held on to it with openly, letting everyone know like, hey, I'm holding on to this. He put it up in his studio. This is a perfect example of
You
conversion.
can see it in every Node video. Above
You
the
can see it
TV.
in every Node video, and eventually the makers of that game never came back and claimed it. So conversion law takes advantage of the fact that at a certain point, if something's not claimed, it should go to others so that they can utilize it. And so then through conversion, that became Brandon's.
How long does that conversion take?
It's 2 years
Okay.
generally for most things.
Yeah, so
Well, he's
it's-
had that sword for a lot longer than
Yeah,
2
so
years.
obviously by that, but like if you just parked your scooter, so like after 10 minutes, circumstances would probably say, well, that's probably not how you haven't abandoned that property, because maybe you just went in. Like it comes down to what a reasonable person in the same situation would think and do, is what it comes down to. So if you saw somebody drop a scooter on the side of the sidewalk and then you walked in to a building, like you wouldn't go up and be like, well, they abandoned the scooter, it's mine now. You'd clearly think, well, they went in there to do something and they'll be back for it.
Or even if it's like 24 up to almost to 24 hours.
24 hours or more.
But once you hit over 24 hours, then it's kind of like, are they coming back for that?
Yes, exactly. So once the person starts to think,
that scooter, it's just sitting there. I feel like if you have a scooter, you want it with you at all times.
but it's funny because this is how the law would actually function in this capacity. Is
Okay.
it would look at the facts and be like, well, would a person after 48 hours start to think, are you coming back for that? Sure.
Well, now we have to get that person whose scooter it is, because clearly
Right.
they're at courts.
Did you make any effort?
They're filing something because.
Did you make any effort to contact the person or knock on the door?
And what
to,
was
like,
that person doing?
Yeah.
Were they minding their own business? Were
But
they on
after like
bender?
a week,
Did they go on vacation?
after 2 weeks,
Did they move to a new city?
it's probably abandoned after 2 weeks.
Yeah, for a scooter, that's
Right.
for sure.
But somewhere in between there, you don't really know. And so that's the weird thing with that.
Although the intention of the company is to specifically leave them out for
Yes, but
multiple people to
here's
use
the
them.
difference. Everyone knows that they're not there for free and they're locked, and it requires an app program with money to be able
So
to
you
use
can't
it.
take them because everyone knows.
Everyone
you can't
knows
take
that they're
them.
not.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that they're not abandoned.
They're not
property.
for individual use.
No, it comes down to whether or not it's abandoned property. Everyone knows that's not abandoned property.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
that's why you can't take them.
And they have GPS, so they know they'd get in trouble if they did.
Well, yeah, but if you
Okay.
mistakenly thought that they were abandoned,
How
if you
long
were
does
like
a GPS
from
battery
if you were like a pygmy and you showed
Not
up
too
and you were like, oh,
A
sick,
pygmy.
a scooter, like without any knowledge of like how the law
I
works.
could do
here.
anything.
You're like Crocodile Dundee, right?
Yeah.
You come from the
Scooters?
yeah, and you're like scooters,
Fuck it.
sweet, and you
I'm-
pick
I'm
one up.
stealing a car.
You wouldn't be liable. You wouldn't be liable for larceny because you didn't have the intent to steal. You thought it was abandoned property. But eventually the GPS system would show up and they'd be like, hey, that's our fucking scooter.
Yeah.
Right.
Give it back.
Point my spear at them. Like, no.
Boy, these references.
Yeah.
You put some
We're getting
weird
deep,
examples,
we're
man.
getting deep references. All right. Well, that's kind of, I mean, I got a couple more if you guys want to get into some hairy shit, but
I have to go color grade.
Nico's got a color grade. Sam's got to edit.
Yeah, it's that time.
It's that time of
Ding
day.
dong.
So, ding dong, boys. Happy
Got work to
Friday.
do. It's not Friday, it's Thursday.
Well, yeah, but by the time that people are listening to this, it's Friday.
Oh,
Yeah.
So this is coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed listening to this podcast. We certainly enjoy having these conversations on topics.
Hashtag
and
ropes.
Hashtag big rope.
It's all Big Rope's fault.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you guys for listening and taking part in this discussion with us.
That's absolutely right. And if you guys are listening to audio-only podcasts, consider doing it on CastBox, where you can find Corridor Cast as well as every other one of your favorite podcasts.
I'm going to check that one out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's a little app. You can download it and listen away.
Cool.
Please consider subscribing to the Corridorcast channel if you haven't already, and please consider hitting that little bell icon, turning on notifications if you are a person who enjoys notifications for good videos.
Ring-a-ding-ding.
Ring-a-ding-ding that bell, boys. Yeah. Oh, also, please tell me, if you took the T1000, they were 6 feet tall, weighed 200 pounds, and you split them in half into two 100-pound T1000s, and they had the same proportions as the 6 foot tall one, how tall would the two...
tall.
Well, I mean,
No,
we're-
it'd be taller.
It'd be
think it'd be taller.
That's what my. I already kind of.
Okay, I'd love to see the math on this. I'd love to see the math.
Yeah. I agree with Nico. I want to see it too.
And feel free to do the equations with any weight, because who knows how much this liquid metal weighs.
Turn it into a Google spreadsheet
Like,
so you can plug in any
let's-
numbers you want.
let's
And
start
it
with
spits
the
out an
numbers.
answer.
200-pound...
It's not gonna change. It's
6
not gonna
feet
change
tall.
the height.
Yeah, what?
1,000 pounds, 6 feet tall, and the 200
How
pounds, 6 feet
wide?
tall.
How
It's gonna
Same exact
how
proportions.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
I
six
weights
foot
are
tall,
relevant.
6 foot tall man, 200 pounds.
A 6 foot tall
Let me put it
T1000.
this way. You have a 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot cube. It weighs 100 pounds.
Hold on.
How big? What are the dimensions of a cube that weighs 50 pounds?
Okay,
It's
there
the
it
square
is.
cube law.
There it
It's-
is.
it's-
All right.
Yeah, it's Yeah.
All right, general.
Is
it's,
it-
the,
is
it's,
it the
the,
same?
it's the exact same reason that
That's-
freaking
This is,
Waterworld
Jared,
video.
this is when you just slowly turn down the volume.
Yeah, we
It's not half
we
foot by
can
half foot
fade
by
out.
half
That's where we
foot because
fade
that
out.
only fills up a small
Well, it's
portion
like
of.
Yeah.
I would have one sphere and then another sphere
fading
with
out.
half
already
the
figured
volume,
this out.
and it
We
doesn't look
already
that much
figured
smaller.
this
It's
out.
like
We
almost
asked-
half size.
guys.
We asked them to figure this
These
out.
guys aren't interested in
Alright.
math.
Later.